Vasishta continued, O Ram, you are not born when the body is born, nor do you die when it dies. To think that the space within the jar came into being when it was made, and the space perishes with the jar, is sheer foolishness. So here, awareness has been compared to space. Space doesn't come and go. It might do if you're thinking in terms of modern physics. But let's not pursue the analogy too far. Let's just take our everyday experience of space, because this is how awareness is. It doesn't come and go. It's like our everyday notions of space. And you might wonder, well, how could somebody say this? Is this not a conjecture? And it could well be a conjecture, and perhaps we shouldn't take it too seriously. On the other hand, we've already got notions about our awareness, and these notions might suggest that our awareness is limited, that it's not much of a deal really, not much of a big deal, and that it's perishable. So we might have these notions already, and we should therefore examine the evidence for these notions. And the best way to do that is to get in touch with the awareness itself. And if you do get in touch with it, if you do direct your awareness to your awareness, then it doesn't really have any qualities, because it's that which allows all qualities to arise. And so perishability is certainly not going to be one of them. And so is divisibility. That's not one of them either. It's like silence. You could say that silence is what allows all sound to arise within it. Is silence perishable? It can be filled up with noise, with sounds, but silence is what remains after all the noise has stopped. Noise is always temporary. Noise always comes and goes. And what's left when the noise is gone? There's always silence. Silence is what holds the noise. So if you're not too happy about the comparison with space, we can compare it. We can compare awareness with silence. And I don't think even modern physics talks about curved silence or silence of different shapes the way it talks about space. We don't have to worry about wormholes and silence. I hope not anyway. I hope not. Moreover, the indwelling consciousness is free from notions of the desirable and the undesirable in relation to the body, mind and senses. It's like the silence. The silence is not fussy about what sounds fill it. It can be beautiful music, or it can be a grotesque cacophony. It could even be the wailing of torture, which is another hideous example. The wailing of torture victims. The individual consciousness seems to come into contact with these even as travellers meet in an inn, or logs of wood meet and part in a stream. Meeting and parting do not cause happiness or happiness to the consciousness. Why then do people exult or grieve in these circumstances? So consciousness seems to come into contact with objects, with body, mind and senses. But this is the attention. This is the cognitive process and the attention. We identify objects, we identify senses, we identify the body, and then relationship between these things is built up. The self, on account of its ignorant self-limitation as the mind, becomes as if tainted by the objects of the world. But the same self, when it is awakened to its true nature, abandons its ignorant delusion and regains its self-knowledge. Then the mind sees the body as if from a great height. Recognizing the body as an aggregate of the elements, it transcends body consciousness and becomes enlightened. So the mind sees the body as if from a great height. I think some people actually have this experience. There's a book called Collision with the Infinite. I can't remember the author right now, but I'll put it up. And the author seems to have had this dissociation from the body. And it's possible that that was a pathological condition, although it could be understood spiritually as well. But I think it actually caused her so much concern that it caused the author of this book so much concern that this indicates that perhaps it wasn't spiritually useful to her. But I think this seeing the body as if from a great height is rather similar to seeing the world as a dream. Recognizing the body as an aggregate of the elements. We don't even recognize it as an aggregate of the elements, we just recognize it as an aggregate of sensations. We recognize it as a subset of the experiencing, and then we leave that subset behind, a certain grouping of elements of the experiencing. But recognizing the body as an aggregate of the elements is one of the exercises that Buddhists use to get over the idea that the body or the self are separate entities, are real entities.